I have a number of stories that I want to talk about today, but first, the first clear pictures of Iran's nuclear site near Isfahan have been published and analyzed following an explosion at or near the site on November 28th, and they provide another piece of the puzzle. But what happened there remains a mystery. Iran's uranium conversion facility sits outside Isfahan. It is there that yellow cake is turned into uranium, and which is then fed into centrifuges and turned into enriched uranium. It can be further enriched to create a nuclear bomb, which is what most of the world believes that Iran is doing. Fox News obtained satellite pictures of the Isfahan nuclear site between December 3rd and December 5th. Less than a week after reports of explosions in the area were heard, analysts at the Institute for Science and International Security, which employs some of the most widely respected experts on Iran's nuclear site, scrutinized the images and said there is no evidence of an explosion, but there wouldn't be clear evidence several days after the event. Iran officials have issued conflicting comments about the blast, which, if it occurred at the uranium conversion facility, could be very damaging to the nation's nuclear program. A report of the explosion was first mentioned in the semi-official Fars news website. Then the report was removed. Then it was finally described as an explosion deriving from a military exercise by Isfahan's governor Alireza Zakar Isfahani. Israeli sources, on the other hand, have suggested that the blast occurred at the nuclear facility. Iran, in turn, has denied that any sort of blast happened there. But others find Iran's denial suspicious, given that there have been numerous acts of sabotage against its nuclear military sites and scientists over the last few years. Just last month, an explosion occurred at a sensitive missile site, killing 20 people, including the father of Iran's Shahab 3 missile. It is not clear what caused that blast or whether it was accidental, but many believe it was not coincidence. ISIS analysts who looked at the images from Isfahan said there had been a dramatic change in the landscape around a tunnel leading down to a storage facility on the periphery of the uranium conversion site. Several structures above that storage facility, which had been there for 15 years and stood intact as recently as August, are gone. There now is evidence of bulldozing around the old structure. Frankly, I have to believe that the war against Iran's nuclear facilities is going on behind the scenes while the rhetoric is out in the open. As I've said many times in the past, Israel usually does most of its work behind the scenes, and if you hear about it beforehand, it's probably not true. Usually, the war that they will fight against Iran would be in the shadows and not out in the open. I don't look for that to change in the near future either. As I've said many times, I do not believe that Bible prophecy supports that Israel will attack Iran, but it's certainly not out of the question. In the next story, many of you know that Israel and Hamas are fighting a battle of rockets at this time, and that bit of the area is beginning to heat up. Late Friday morning, Gaza terrorists fired 4 rockets into western Negev communities, causing no casualties or damage. The airstrike and ensuing rocket fire come one day after the IDF killed 2 Islamic terrorists and touched off another barrage of rocket fire in on the southern Israel. The Israeli strike on Thursday targeted a car on a crowded Gaza street, killing 2 people whom Israel said were plotting attacks along the Israel-Egypt border. At the same time, Jordan has warned Israel not to destroy the Mughrabi bridge, which connects the Western Wall with the Temple Mount. This is just another phase in what I believe one day will see Jordan breaking their peace treaty with Israel. As the Middle East begins to be more Islamic and it turns to Sharia law, I believe that you will see Jordan take a more bolder step and step out against Israel in what will be a joint effort to destroy the nation of Israel. One example of that is in Syria right now. Even though Syria has come to terms with the Arab League, it still continues to kill its own people, and civil war continues to rage in that country. Turkey has basically come out and said that they will not allow Syria to threaten security in the region. In fact, Turkey has said in a recent Haaretz article that they cannot stand by and watch if Syria's crackdown on a popular uprising puts security in the region at risk. Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu said on Friday, while Turkey has no desire to interfere in Syria's internal affairs, it has a duty to tell Syria enough. If it puts Turkey's security at risk by fighting its own people and forcing people to flee the country, he said. I have to believe that Bashar Assad, the leader of Syria at this point, his days are numbered, and when that day comes, that will be bad news for Israel, since it will probably bring about Sharia law, and the enemies of Israel in that country will probably arise, just as they have in other countries that have seen brutal takeovers. In Russia, you also see protests by the tens of thousands of people in Moscow who are demanding an end to Vladimir Putin's rule, and a rerun of a parliamentary election on Saturday in its biggest opposition protest since he rose to power 12 years ago. Frankly, I do not see Vladimir Putin being overthrown. In fact, probably just the opposite. In fact, I look more toward him smashing this revolt and heading back toward a communist rule. If I were to speculate, I would probably say it would be more of a state capitalistic type nation, and for which Putin would rule with an iron fist. That's probably where they're heading. State capitalism basically is somewhat what China is doing right now, where there is a capitalistic type of environment, but it is solely directed by and controlled by those who are in power. And lastly, Europe's worst financial crisis in generations is forging a new European Union, pushing Britain to the sidelines and creating a more integrated, physically disciplined core of nations under the auspices of a resurgent Germany, says the New York Times. But frankly, this agreement is nothing more than a band-aid that has temporarily rallied the markets around the world, but has little to do with taking care of the massive debt from countries such as Greece, Italy, or Spain that are coming due in a very short amount of time, and with many others in the waiting that will also have problems in the very near future. Germany, who has basically fit the bill for most of the problems of the European Union, has argued that the solution to a euro crisis is not a series of short-term bailouts, but a long-term overhaul of the rules that govern European integration. Germany is using market turmoil as a whooping stick to force more spendthrift European countries to adjust to their straitened circumstances by reducing spending and ushering in a period of austerity. But critics say such a step risks a deep recession. I have to agree with the critics. I think that this situation will not be solved by what they've agreed upon thus far, but will be the next step in forming a new government, new European Union that will usher in the Antichrist. Whether it will be soon, I do not know. I believe that we are in the final generation that will witness the rapture of the church. If you do not know the Lord as Savior, I would certainly recommend that you take that necessary step very soon. I do believe that we're looking at the final days before the Lord comes back. This is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.